And simply, very simply, Mughal decline is the larger setting in which Europeans start to enter into the Indian subcontinent. Thereafter, we also did a very simple concept that why did they need to come to India via the sea route? And that question was answered because of the presence of which dynasty or which empire? Come on. Which empire? You have, as I said, standard rules. You have to be proactive in my class. We have to interact. Yes, the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire. So basically, the Ottoman Empire blocked the land route between India and the West. And this in turn meant that basically, they had to fight an alternative routes. They had the Safavids also, Ottoman Safavids. Basically, the Islamic dynasties created a lot of issue for them to cross over via land, and pepper was becoming extremely expensive. Now, if all this is clear, then let me again start the discussion about the Portuguese and about Vasco da Gama. Can I do that? Till this point, everybody is with me. As I said, standard rules. Don't have to make running notes. Just have to be with me. And if I ask you, are you following me? If you're not following me, thumbs up, yes, whatever is comfortable to you. I need your assertion. I need your feedback with regards to how we go forward. Great. So as I said, the problem for the Europeans was very simple, that they were not able to cross over from the South Atlantic Ocean into the North Atlantic Ocean. So if you haven't, we'll talk about Christopher Columbus when we'll do world history. That is a separate issue altogether. He found a new world, not India. We will discuss about Vasco da Gama. Basically, if you didn't attend yesterday, this point forward, it's a totally new discussion. So if for any number of reasons, if you were not there, anybody who's class, this is the first class itself, the discussion I'm having with you right now, don't have to worry. Yesterday's discussion will be repeated, but now concentrate. Now concentrate. Can we all agree to this, that you concentrate now? Basically, whatever you did yesterday was more about orientation, and if you missed it, don't worry. Whatever I'm doing from this point forward, this is the new discussion we do. So, as I said, the Europeans, when they were traveling from Europe, they were getting stuck on the western coast of Africa, and they did not know how to cross Africa because of the enormity, the bigness of the empire. So it was finally a person, if you remember, who reached this place, which is called Cape Town, or what we call as Cape of Good Hope. And that person was a person called Bartholomew Diaz. You remember him as Diaz, B. Diaz. And Bartholomew Diaz was the one who reached it. He was funded by a very important Portuguese ruler, Henry the Navigator. He was so obsessed with navigation that he was called Henry the Navigator. And this 1488 discovery was extremely important because he first named it Cape of Storms, but because it is the gateway to the Orient or to Asia itself, it was renamed as Cape of Good Hope. We'll discuss that. But the basic point is, Diaz was able to open up a route at least till the tip of Africa. Now, 10 years later, he is followed by another person who reaches till Cape Town, and this person is Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama in 1498 managed to reach Cape of Good Hope as Diaz, but rather than going blindly into the Indian Ocean, he changed his pilot, or the captain in that sense, to a person called Abdul Majid. He is a Gujarati pilot who was actually coincidentally in Cape Town. Gujarati merchants were known to trade with Africa, so he was sitting in Cape Town, and now he takes the wheel of his ship and navigates him via Madagascar to India. to reach a place called Calicut. I will show everything on the map. Don't worry about that. Very simply, 1488 is considered a very important year because Cape of Good Hope is found, and 1498 is Vasco da Gama reaching India, which is extremely significant in the larger story of the world, because now finally there was a sea route to India, And to just give you a basic point, this is Vasco da Gama, this is Diaz. The route which he took when he was coming, it's coming till Cape Town and then taking Majid to reach Calicut. When he went back, he rather got lost within the Arabian Sea itself, but was able to manage to reach Africa and then follow his way back. But Vasco da Gama's journey, 1498-1499, extremely significant. And the significance, 98, not 89, 98, 10 years after. 98, have I written it the wrong way? 98, I've written 98. So very simply, Vasco da Gama's discovery of the route is considered significant because finally the Europeans could land in India bypassing the Ottoman route. Is this clear, everyone? Because then I pivot towards the Portuguese story. They were not able to use the land path again because the Ottomans were blocking it and they were taking too many taxes. So technically it became very expensive to take it. Now, as I always say, the structure of the lecture is I will give you the larger picture, then we'll look at the PPT. PPT is everything which I say, and then we'll talk about the summary, and I'll give you a very beautiful timeline to understand everything together. That is the way we revise. The basic point is, let us discuss the sequence of events here. 1488, Diaz reaches Cape of Good Hope, and in 1498, Vasco da Gama is able to reach India. And he is able to reach India, therefore, he found a sea route to India or the Indian subcontinent. This is considered a major turning point, as I said. And in the sequence of all European powers coming to India, the Portuguese were the first to come to India, and their Vasco da Gama being the most important personality. He is the first Portuguese to step into India properly, and now he is greeted by a local ruler called the Zamorians of Calicut. Zamorians are actually a subset, or technically a small political setup within the Vijayanagara Empire. You would know Vijayanagara because of Krishna Deva Raya. All this is medieval India. But the Zamorians control Calicut. Now you will say, why are they called Zamorian? The answer to that question is, I am called Abhishek Mishra. So my name is Abhishek Mishra. There's no reason for that. Same way, their name is Zamorian and they're called that. So there's no specific reason. They're called Zamorian because that is their name. And Zamorians controlled Calicut, and they are very welcoming to Vasco da Gama. And it is believed that Vasco da Gama came with 3 ships. And when he went back, he took all these ships filled up with pepper, and he was able to sell it at 4 times to 5 times the price at which he actually bought it in India. And this will open the floodgates of Europeans entering into India. So first point is, the roadblock was crossing Africa, which is now done via Cape of Good Hope, and the basic point of the matter is Diaz. And second is 1498 Vasco da Gama. Vasco da Gama reaches India, greeted by Zamorians, goes back literally with pepper in his ships, and is able to become a very, very, very rich man in Portugal as soon as he reaches, because of the volume he took, sold at 5 times the price. Is this clear? Is this clear? This part of the story is clear, because now Calicut is Calicut, Kolkata is Kolkata, Kolkata is in the Bay of Bengal, Calicut is in the Arabian Sea. Very simply, Calicut, I'll show it to you on a map, don't worry. Basic point is, Vasco da Gama opened up India. Diaz solved the first problem. Vasco da Gama, using Abdul Majid, finally was able to reach India. Is this Zamorians were very welcoming of Vasco da Gama. All rulers at this point of time welcomed foreign travelers because they bring money. So they are very, very welcoming. Is this point clear? I need everybody's assertion. If I get your assertion, then I will start to go further in the story, which is equally more interesting and much, much more elaborate in that sense. So the basic point is clear, that Vasco da Gama found a route, and that route itself became the entry point into India. And because he could see that Zamonians are very, very welcoming, he was able to go back as a very, very good entrepreneur in that sense, by taking a lot of pepper with him. Okay, great. Now let's go. Zamorians control Calicut. I will show you Calicut on the map so that there is no confusion also. See, this is Calicut. This is Kannur. I'll talk about Kannur, and this is Kochi. I'll show you an even more. This is Kochi, Goa. We are right now talking about the Arabian Sea. I'll even go a step further and show it to you. See, Cochin, Goa, and this is the West Coast we are talking about. And I'll go a step further and I'll show you. See, I don't want the geography to be wrong. See, this is Goa, this is Mangalore, Kannur, Calicut, Kozhikode. So I'll mark it here itself. Calicut, Kannur, Kochi, Goa, Diu, Daman. These are the important things which we are discussing right now. We are very specifically on the western sector, and this is the place we are talking about, Calicut being controlled by Zamorians. Is the geography clear? Yes, Seni, totally correct. Is the geography clear? Because I want you to create an image in your mind. Great, very good. So let's go back and discuss what happens next. Okay, so 1498, Vasco da Gama, first Portuguese to come to India, and he is treated well. He is treated well by the Zamorians. But the next person who is going to come, Kolkata is in West Bengal. I will tell you Calcutta. When British we will talk about Calcutta. Don't confuse yourself. 1498, Vasco da Gama comes, and he's treated well. Treated in the sense, he's greeted, the hospitality is good, Zamorians are very happy. But the problem is the person who comes second. In 1500, his name is Pedro Cabral. He's again a Portuguese. And when he comes, he again reaches Calicut. He is even able to go on till Kannur and Cochin, and he starts to play, and he technically starts to trade in this whole sector. He is trading in this sector. And very simply, at Calicut, he builds a small warehouse. And the word which Zamorians are the local rulers, these are the local rulers. The word which is used for warehouses at this point of time, what is the word which we use? Anybody knows? Yes, very good. Factory or trading post. Basically, is just a warehouse where he brings in the things, he stores it, and he sells it and stores the item he wants to send back. These are called factories. This is the first small factory which he develops in Calicut. But the problem of Cabral is he doesn't want anybody else to trade with the Zamorians or with this sector itself. He wanted to be the only person who would trade in pepper, and thereby he wanted to remove the Indian traders, the Arabic traders, any trader other than Portuguese. So Cabral is a little bit more aggressive than Vasco da Gama. Kiran, I'll show you where Portugal is, don't worry. Europe map I will show you when I'll show you Dutch. And if somebody still has a problem, I'll just give you basic. 1 second, give me 1 second. Portugal is here. Portugal, France, Germany, Netherlands, United Kingdoms, Denmark, and Italy, Spain. So they are coming from this area. They're coming from this area of Europe. We'll come to this map. Kiran, I hope that you are now getting the geography. See, if you are new to this, you can always keep an atlas open in front of you, a world history atlas in front of you. So it should not be a problem. That can help you generally, because we'll be talking about the world at this point of time. So as I said, Vasco da Gama comes, buys and goes back. But Cabral wanted to make his basic trading in this area his own monopoly. Again, Cabral, like Vasco da Gama, is a trader who is coming from Portugal, and he wants to create a sphere of influence. By ejecting so therefore he starts to fight with the local traders to create his own power in this area. So very simply, Vasco da Gama kept to himself, which is came, took what he wanted, went back. However, Cabral was a little bit more ambitious. He's a little bit more aggressive. He said, if Portuguese are here, no one else I will let them trade, and he will start to fight with the local traders. And when he will start to fight with the local traders, the Zamorians will realize that these Portuguese are not that welcoming and not that good, because they are technically trying to disrupt the trade in this area. So the basic point is going to be that as soon as Cabral is going to start to fight with the local traders, be it the Indian ones, be it the Arab, anybody who is other than a Portuguese he wanted to remove. This in turn will lead to a major clash between Zamorians and I will give you the whole timeline, don't worry. First, understand the story. Sit back, listen to me, enjoy the story, understand it. If you'll understand the story, you will not have to worry about anything. Vasco da Gama comes, keeps to himself, goes back. Zamorians are very happy. However, Cabral comes, starts to meddle into the trading here, Therefore, Zamorians start to feel there's a problem, and there is a major clash between the Zamorians and the Portuguese, specifically with Cabral. And what is going to happen is that this warehouse will be destroyed by the Zamorians. They will burn it and they will say, you are not welcome here. Enough is enough. You have meddled into the politics of this area too much. So Vasco da Gama kept to himself, came with economic logic. He technically took this paper, went back. He was just a trader. Zamorians did not have a problem. However, when Pedro Cabral comes the second time, the second Portuguese who comes in 1500, he starts to create a sphere of influence. That assertion of power, that assertion of influence, meddling into local politics, in turn led to him to get into a conflict with the Zamorians. The same Zamorians. Don't worry about the Zamorians, who is the founder, this and that. Not important to you. As I said, they're part of the Vijayanagara Empire, larger Vijayanagara Empire, but that is not the part. The point is, Zamorians, local rulers, will now fight with the Portuguese and Cabral and destroy the small warehouse which was created in 1500 in Calicut. Is this point clear? Is this basic story clear till this point? It's clear? Great. Now, when we go a step further to 1501, in 1501, now Vasco da Gama will return. Now Vasco da Gama is going to return. He returns to India, but this time, the Zamorians do not allow the Portuguese to trade. Why is that? Why is that? Why is now Vasco da Gama not welcome? Why is that Vasco da Gama is not welcome? Because of the clash. Because of the clash. They have Cabral is the reason why Vasco da Gama is not technically is not welcome now, because he showed that the Portuguese are extremely aggressive. So now the Portuguese have a route, but they don't have a place to be. So now Vasco da Gama will go back and say to the king of Portugal, we need to now properly think of an Indian policy. How do we go forward? And avoiding Calicut, in 1503, the first permanent factory will be developed in not Calicut but at Kochi. At Kochi or Cochin, they will develop their first factory. And what they will do is that because Cochin was not under the Zamorians, they will be able to now operate from here, and by 1503 they will develop their second major factory at Kannur. So again, what they do is that 1505, sorry, I've written 3 but it is 5. 1505, they technically are able to now expand in this sector. So again, to just give you a basic reference of the geography here, they start at They start at Calicut. They start at Calicut, but Calicut does not work out because of whom? Because of whom? Come on, because of Cabral. And if it does not work out with Cabral, they first go to Kochi and then go to Kannur. By 1503 and 1505, they technically are trading in Cochin and Kannur. Now, is this sequence of events clear? How they are able to reorient and go north and south of Calicut to technically entrench themselves? Very simply, Vasco da Gama comes, trades, no issue. Cabral comes, starts to meddle in the politics. Things become bad with Zamorians. They only control Calicut. So Vasco da Gama comes, sees that there is a lot of conflict. So he goes back, now again comes back, but now with Portuguese officers. And they now are able to again strike a deal with the Cochin ruler and the Kannur ruler, and within 2 years they make north and south 2 factories so that they can trade in India, and they are now very cautious. Now they're very cautious. Now is this point clear? I need your assertion because there's a very major confusion which you will see, and because a lot of you will Google things and then you will start to get confused. If you will Google, and because I've been doing this for now a decade, if you will Google that what is the first factory of the Portuguese in India, it will technically say Calicut. But Calicut isn't the first factory. Why isn't Calicut the first factory? Why? It was temporary and it was destroyed by the Zamorians. So irrespective of whatever book says whatever, trust me, and this is the basic thing which you need to remember, Kochi 1503 is the first factory of the Portuguese in India. So can we agree to this that Kochi is the first factory? Because I can actually guarantee to you that you will get multiple answers. You do it as we speak, you will find Calicut written. But that is totally wrong. And remember, that is why stop for history. Don't have to Google things because there's a lot of misinformation. The basic point of the matter is, I am again repeating the story. The story is very simple and straightforward. Vasco da Gama comes, trades, no issues. Cabral now starts to do politics in India. That in turn leads to Zamorians fighting with him. So when Vasco da Gama again comes, he is not welcomed by Zamorians. So he has to go south of Calicut to a place called Kochi. Now he's with a little bit of Portuguese officers also. He goes into a negotiation and establishes the first permanent factory of the Portuguese in India, Kochi. And by 1505, they go north of Calicut and take Kannur. Is this clear? The Calicut factory is not counted because it was temporary and it was destroyed. So the basic point of the matter is, if it is temporary and destroyed, did not exist after 1500, it is not the first factory, right? Okay. So Kiran has done us the honor of Googling it also, and she is saying, Google says, on 13 September 1500, Portuguese Cabral arrived at Calicut in Kerala, established a factory which was the first European factory in India. But technically, Kiran, that statement is still correct because it says first European factory in India. It does not say first permanent factory in India, and it is saying European. In a way, that statement is a little bit correct, but it is not the first permanent factory. So basic point is, whatever site it may be, listen to me, Kochi. Because technically, Kiran, that line is correct because it says first European factory. It is first European factory, but not first permanent Portuguese settlement. There's a difference between trading center and settlement. Again, Just forget everything. Stop Google, stop any website, beat whatever website it may be. Trust me with this. Simple point is, first factory is Cochin. First Portuguese settlement in India is Cochin. Is this clear? Ashish and Safruddin, does not matter. Does not matter. That would be written in a certain context. I know that. Don't have to worry. You just listen to what I'm saying here. Can we agree to this? Come on. We can agree to this? Because there is much more to this story than actually this part. Okay, very good. So we started with Vasco da Gama, went to Cabral, and when went to Cabral, we were able to understand how he messed up this sector, and thereafter he allowed Vasco da Gama to then come again, but now with no welcoming sign from the Zamorians. 1503, 1505, he is now able to find two places to now trade from. Now, a very significant, why are they settling with factories in India? Because they need to trade with India. So you can't just temporarily be there. These are like technically warehouses. You need to keep stuff so that you can take it later. Now, see, in India, if you have to come, Sachin, you have to come with the monsoonal winds, be it the incoming and the outgoing. You need to wait for these winds to change. So you have to wait in India in that sense. So very simply, 1498, for 1500, 1503, 1501 rather, 1503, 1505. Now, the Portuguese technically now control Kochi and Kannur in a way. But their hunger is still alive. And in a very significant moment, in 1510, they get one of the most important sectors or one of the most important city or settlement in India, which is Goa. But even before getting Goa, the politics of the Portuguese was now dominate the Arabian Sea. So basically by 1505 they have Kannur, and they have already in 1503 Calicut. But now what they want is they want to move a little bit upwards into Gujarat. And Gujarat has a very important port. What port is that? Sorry. This is Kochi, Calicut. What port is that? Very good. Surat. They want to go closer to Surat. Now, in order to go closer to Surat, you would then in turn need to enter into the area of the local rulers of Gujarat. They're called the Sultans of Gujarat, Begara Khan. Everything is written in the PPT, don't have to worry. Basic point is, by 1507, the governor of Portuguese in India, his name is Almeida, Francois Almeida. Almeida now is looking for a colony or for a settlement in the Gujarat sector. So see, I have a map here. I'll show it on map itself. See, they have Cochin and they have Kannur. Is this point clear, everybody? Is this point clear? They have Cochin, they have Kannur. Thereafter, they want to enter this zone. And in order to enter this zone, they have to go a little bit towards the north of where they are. But this in turn will bring them in conflict with the sultans or Sultan of Gujarat, who does not like the Portuguese because they knew the story of Calicut. They knew the story of Calicut. So they knew that the Portuguese are a little bit aggressive. Now the Portuguese, because they had seen that they had fought a war, or they technically were now trying to dominate this area, the governor who operated from Cochin, which technically became the capital in a way of the Portuguese in India at this point of time, his name is Almeida. Who is a governor? Who is a governor? The governor, very simply, Almeida is the one who takes care of these two settlements, Kannur and Kochi. He is the head of the power here. Now, Almeida wants to dominate this sector. And therefore, Vasco da Almeida, he introduces a policy which is very, very ominously or very famously called Blue Waters Policy. It's called the Blue Waters Policy, given by Almeida, but technically will be more established under Albuquerque. We'll discuss. But the basic point, it is called Blue Waters Policy. Portuguese wanted to dominate Western Coast, like anything. And their understanding was very simple. We have Kochi, Kannur, but we need to go towards Surat, because Surat is what really matters to us. Now, they say that let's do one thing. We have the military sense. This is the governor of the Portuguese, who operates from Kochi. Now, very simply, this policy was to make sure that all trade is Portuguese controlled. In Arabian Sea. Almeida, as I said, is the governor, is the officer sent with Vasco da Gama to take care of these two settlements. The Portuguese are aggressively expanding in India. They have finally found a footing in India via Kochi and Kannur, and they want to go a step further. And the step further movement is nothing but the Blue Waters Policy. Now, the Blue Waters Policy is the instrument of establishing Portuguese domination in the Arabian Sea. Now, can I discuss what is the Blue Waters Policy? Are you getting the context? Where the discussion is going? We started with Vasco da Gama, we went to Cabral, now then again Vasco da Gama is back, two factories are established. Portuguese now sent an officer called Vasco da Almeida. His task is to expand the Portuguese in India, and he will now start to follow the Blue Waters Policy. I need your assertion with regards to this, that this is making sense. I will give you a timeline in the end. Don't worry, everything will be perfectly clear to you. Don't have to worry about that. Now, the basic point is, Almeida coming to India was the Portuguese assertion of power. They wanted to dominate the Arabian Sea. So what is the Blue Waters Policy? Under the Blue Waters Policy, the Portuguese had a lot of strength when it comes to military strength, quite a lot. Their navy at this point of time was one of the most powerful in that sense. So what they wanted to do is they said, now listen to me very carefully. Stop doing anything. Just listen to me. 100% attention. They said that if you want to trade in the Arabian Sea, take our permission. And if you don't take our permission, we will destroy your ship. These two settlements they control, and now you look at the aggressiveness of the Portuguese. The Portuguese said that you have to take from us what are called cartas. Cartas is literally the word for letter in Portuguese. Portuguese word for letter is cartas. You need to take a cartas or a letter of permission to trade in the Arabian Sea. If you do not have a carta, then we will sink or confiscate the ship. So you see the audacity. You see the audacity of the Portuguese, the guts of the Portuguese, that they are only controlling two settlements, but these newcomers want to dominate the trade via giving the concept of cartas. Cartas is nothing but like a pass. The Portuguese will get money from this. You have to buy the cartas. Cartas just means permission. It's a permission letter. It's a permission letter. I'll give you a very simple example. In school, if you needed to go out of the class during class timings, you needed a pass? You needed a pass, yes or no? If you are roaming around in the school without the pass and during the class timing itself, it is a problem. Consider this cartas as the pass. If you don't have the pass, you will be taken to the principal. Here, you will be sunk. So these very simple, it's a very simple concept. I have two settlements. I want to control all paper trade. So this is the aggressiveness of the Europeans in India. They control only two areas. And by 1506, their most important personality in India, Almeida, has now introduced a policy. Though he does not control anything more than Kochi and Kannur, anybody who wants to be in the Arabian Sea, that ship needs to take permission from the Portuguese. Is this clear? Is this clear? Yogesh, I'm coming to 1507. That is the conflict. Listen to me first. I'll tell you the dates. I know the dates. I have enough dates for you. Don't worry about that. So, very simply, Blue Waters policy is Almeida's attempt to capture the Arabian Sea. Now, there is the Sultan of Egypt, and there's the Sultan of Gujarat. Would these two people, yes, Almeida introduced Carta system in 1505-06 period. Don't worry, I'll give you the timeline. Listen, these two rulers, will they be happy or will they be annoyed by the Portuguese? Almeida is controlling two ports or the whole coast? Nothing, only two ports. Only two ports. That is the basic point, Yashika. The local rulers will obviously be getting annoyed. They will get annoyed that these new guys control only two small factories. They will tell us, I will take permission from you. And there's a very famous story that basically the Portuguese got in trouble with Akbar over this. Akbar's mother, Hamida Banu Begum, wanted to go to Hajj, wanted to go to Makkah, Medina. The Portuguese threatened the Mughal ship and her mother had to come back because it did not have the cartas. And that is why the Mughals did not have a good relationship with the Portuguese for a very long time, except for Jahangir and Shah Jahan. So you see, these, just based on military strength, they are trying to control the whole sector via the blue waters policy. And it is extremely annoying. You control two small settlements, and you will tell me Sultan of Gujarat is going to take permission. So what happens is you're understanding the basic problem here. The Portuguese only control a small settlement here, but the problem is that he has to come from here to this. If the Sultan of Egypt has to trade with India, he has to enter the Arabian Sea. So very simply, Almeida introduces the blue water policy, but Sultan of Gujarat and Sultan of Egypt are not happy. Can we agree to this much? No, Shalu, it is not controlled by the Portuguese at this point of time. Great. Very good. Very good. So now what happens? Naturally, in 1507, a joint alliance of the Sultan of Egypt and the Sultan of Gujarat, Begara Khan his name was, need not worry about the name right now. These two fight with the Portuguese under Almeida, and this was a product of the blue waters policy. And in this what will happen is the Portuguese will get defeated and Almeida will lose his son in battle. Francois de Almeida will lose his son, does not matter what his name is, but basically he will lose his son. And that is why Almeida again in 1509 will again fight with this alliance of Gujarat and Egypt with Almeida, and this time Almeida will very comprehensively defeat, he will defeat the alliance itself. This battle is called Battle of Dew. This battle is called Battle of Dew. No, rather Battle of Chaul. And this is called Battle of Dew. Dew is a place. So they come together to fight with Almeida, and in 1507 and 1505 all this is already developing up. Between 1505, 1507 and 1509 this area is now under conflict and the Portuguese were defeated. Chaul is a place close to this area. Chaul is a place. Very simply, Almeida has now fought two battles, and finally he has been able to show to the two major rulers that basically the Portuguese are strong enough to hold this area. And that is why by 1509 the Portuguese now become a paramount power in this area, because of their naval strength. Did this story make sense? I'll again read it. I'll give summary and then we'll read it out of the PPT itself. I'll repeat it, but is this making sense? What I want from you is, when I'm telling you these stories, just concentrate and listen to me, because everything is written in the PPT. Don't need to do anything. So what are the dates we played with till this point? 1488, 1498, 1500, 1501, 1503, 1505, 1507, 1509. What is the importance of these dates? I'll tell you what to learn in this. Don't have to learn the whole thing. This is Diaz coming to India. This is Vasco da Gama. This is Diaz reaching the African coast, which is the Cape of Good Hope. This is Vasco da Gama coming to India. This is Cabral coming to India. Vasco da Gama returns. Kochi, Kannur, Battle of Chaul, Battle of Dew. And basically, the simple point of the matter is, by 1509, the Portuguese have proved that they have the naval strength to hold on to India and Arabian Sea. Can we agree to this point? Though, see, blue waters policy is never very effective. It's a very big area. You can evade the Portuguese, but if somehow you are caught, when in school, you still roamed around without a pass, didn't you? You did. But it was about if you get caught or not. So though it's a very, very big thing, it's a very, very big thing, pass is needed, Karta system. But if you are able to find a route in which technically you are not caught by the Portuguese, no issues. But the Portuguese claim to control this area. It's about their own understanding. Battle of Dew is Almeida's what we call as revenge. See, now I'll do the second revision with you. Let's read the PPT. It will make sense. See. Let's go back to the first point. Diaz in 1488. Now, please concentrate. I'm now just reading everything. Everything I've said is written in the PPT, but I hope this type of strategy is working. Basic context first, then looking at the PPT, then a summary in the end. This is the standard structure which I follow. Create a larger picture in your mind, then go to the nitty-gritties of it, and then go to the summary in the end. If it is working, good. If it isn't, I'll change it. If you need it, I can change the sequence. That doesn't matter. Very simply, creating the picture is important, because that way the PPT, when I read it out to you, you know where you are. So great. Now, Diaz in 1488 originally named the Cape of Good Hope as the Cape of Storms, the Cabo das Tormentas, and it was then renamed by King John II of Portugal to Cape of Good Hope, Cabo da Boa Esperança, because it represented the opening of the route to the east. Is there a problem in this point? There's no problem. We know the Diaz story very well. Very good. Now, Vasco da Gama became the first European to re-establish direct trade links with India since the Roman times, and he first arrived in India in 1498 by circumnavigating Africa, meaning circumnavigating, going via Africa and coming to India. There were 3 ships which he brought with him, and it was all led by a Gujarati pilot, Abdul Majid, who knew the route how to reach India. Now, the need for this was based on the fact that the Ottomans had disrupted the traditional route in West Asia, and rivalry with the Italian states sent Portugal in search with the alternative sea route to India. First successful voyage of Vasco da Gama is when he arrives at Calicut. He's given permission to trade in the city. The Zamorians are very, very welcoming, and he's able to also set a very small factory, not a proper factory, to trade on this coast. But this is also a temporary factory. It's a temporary factory. So that is why we don't count it again. Now, the problem will start after him, which is da Gama stayed in India for 3 months. When he returned to Portugal, he came back with rich cargo. Now Pedro Alvarez Cabral was able to negotiate and establish a factory at Calicut when he arrived in September of 1500. There was an incident of conflict when the Portuguese factory at Calicut was attacked by the locals, and this led to several Portuguese dead, but the factory was destroyed. Cabral succeeded in getting advantageous treaties with Kochi and Kannur, but wasn't able to establish anything. And that is why when Vasco da Gama again came in 1501, he was in conflict with Zamorians, and that is why they will very simply establish their first Portuguese establishment in India at Kochi, then by 1505 at Kannur, and we'll talk about Goa 1510. But the most important personality in this story is Francois de Almeida, 1505-1509. He was the first governor of the Portuguese in India, followed a policy of blue water, completely concentrating on the trade, did not interfere in the local politics, but he wanted to control the waters. Because of this blue waters policy, in 1505, 1507 and 1509, he will fight the Battle of Chaul, alliance of Sultan of Mahmud Begara of Gujarat and the Egyptian Mamluk fleet versus Almeida, but the Loquero de Almeida is the son of Almeida. Victory for the alliance, and now Almeida will avenge his son's death by 1509 to now become the most important personality, and the Portuguese become the most important power in this sector. Is this clear? Now this is the whole story which I told you, nothing less, nothing more. Now this is third revision I'm having with you, so that we can just come out of class and we remember everything. Great. So can I move forward, everyone, in the story? Come on. Very good. Now, the one who actually replaced the second governor and the real person who established properly Portuguese in India is the second governor, and his name is Alfonso de Albuquerque. Now, I'll tell you one thing very, very clearly. People call him Albuquerque, but that is not the correct pronunciation, because in Portuguese QUE equals to K, Albuquerque. So now that you're my students and I have a knowledge of Portuguese, why not pronounce the names correct, which is Alfonso de Albuquerque? Because, for example, if I had to write my name in Portuguese, I would write it like this: Abisek. The pronunciation of K is QUE. So it is not Alfonso de Albuquerque. Albuquerque is something totally different in America. So it is Alfonso de Albuquerque. Now, what is the most important thing which Alfonso de Albuquerque does is in 1510. He is able to go into a negotiation and then into a conflict with one of the Dakkani Sultanate, and that Dakkani Sultanate is Bijapur. We'll talk about this in medieval India. Bijapur, Golconda is coming. Golconda, Berar, Bidar, Ahmednagar. And Bijapur, the Sultan of Bijapur, Albuquerque, fought with him and was able to establish Goa as the new settlement. Goa is the only settlement which was technically the longest lasting of the Portuguese. It will only come into India's hand when will India properly in post-independence get control of Goa? Very good. 1961-62 period, which is called 61 is liberation of Goa. So Goa very simply was the longest and the most important colony of the Portuguese in India. But he is even smarter. What he does is he goes to the court of Krishnadevaraya. Krishnadevaraya is technically the ruler of Vijayanagara state. Again, something medieval India we will cover. You know him from Krishnadevaraya Tenali Raman. Krishnadevaraya, he goes and says to the Vijayanagara state, he says to Krishnadevaraya, we have the best horses. Buy from us and don't buy from anyone else. And this alliance, where the Portuguese now started to supply to Krishnadevaraya, will strengthen the Portuguese in India itself. So you see, he's the real founder of the power of the Portuguese in the east, which is India. In 1510, he will capture Goa via a conflict with the Bijapur ruler. And then in 1511, he will have a treaty with Krishnadevaraya, wherein they were ready to supply Arabic horses. And they said, don't take it from the Bijapur, don't take it from anyone else, take it from us. And Fiar Luis was then an ambassador of the Portuguese who used to sit in the Vijayanagara court. He further was able to get the Straits of Malacca, which is Indonesia, by 1511. By 1513, they are back in Calicut, now defeating the Zamorians. And finally, in 1515, he will start to control the Hormuz Strait. Hormuz, which is technically, now he's controlling both the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf via that point. That is why this map is very, very important. When this one, which is that the Portuguese were able to very simply create a whole sequence in India from Calicut to Kannur to Goa to then again Kochi. He was able to now control, and I'll show you that map again. They were now able to simply control this whole sector via controlling first Hormuz, Muscat, then they will get Kochi, Goa. So now they are technically making their presence felt in this arc. Krishnadevaraya is an important ruler of the Vijayanagara Empire, which was there in South India at this point of time. Very simply, the blue waters policy was something which they were actually obsessed with, and Albuquerque took it step further. Is this making sense? Because then he give you a whole sequence of events. We're coming to the end of the story in a way. Okay. Now, Albuquerque is also known for a very simple point. Did not interfere with religious matters of the people, except he did a very important thing which is going to become important for us later, which is in the Goa settlement and in and around it, he abolished sati. Sati is the inhumane, barbaric, at this point of time, Hindu practice of burning the widow with the husband's funerary pyre. And very simply, this was something which the Portuguese, even though they are the most horrific in themselves, found it so horrific that very simply Albuquerque said that no sati in Portuguese areas. No sati in Portuguese area. Raja Ram Mohan Roy will do it via British in Bengal, but the first person to intervene with regards to the Europeans is Alfonso the Albuquerque. He introduced a policy of assimilation, and he now said that let the Portuguese develop this settlement naturally. So we have now added another date. We've now added another date very simply. 1488, 1498, 1500, 1501, 1503, 1505, 1507, 1509, 1510. Everybody is following me till this point? Diaz, Vasco da Gama, Cabral, Vasco da Gama, Kochi, Kannur, Chaul, Diu, Goa. And once I'm done with this story, I'll give you it on a timeline and give everything under it, so don't need to worry with regards to that. Almeida, very simply, was the one who started the Blue Waters policy in 1505, will take it till 1509. Albuquerque will then take it a step further, but his most important point is getting Goa. Now, Albuquerque will consolidate the position of the Portuguese in India, and he will be succeeded by a person called Nino de Cunha. Now, again, people call him Cunha, but NH is near and LH is lear. So this is Nino de Cunha, not Cunha. You will see it a lot of different platforms. It will say Cunha, Albuquerque, Cunha. No, Cunha. Nino de Cunha. Now, though Cunha did a lot of things, his most important activity is that he will shift the capital. Cochin used to be the capital, and in 1529 he will shift it where? He shifted where? Shifted to, very good, Goa. So this will be the capital from 1529 till 1961. The Portuguese will be there as the capital of Goa, will be there as the Portuguese capital in India. So he assumed office and he moved the capital in November of 1529, thereby making the seat of power in Goa. He will also go into a conflict again with the Gujarat ruler, Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. Initially, both of them had a good understanding because both of them hated Humayun. But as soon as the relationship of the Gujarat ruler is going to become good with Humayun, the second ruler of the Mughals, the Portuguese again will clash with the Gujarati ruler, and basically Cunha will now shift his influence or his attempt from the western coast to the eastern coast and go towards Hooghly, which is he will change the orientation. Very simply, their basic attempt to get Gujarat is not succeeding except for a small area called Diu. So now he will go towards Hooghly and he will say that let us change our orientation from the west coast to the east coast. This is the basic point. He had an understanding with Bahadur Shah of Gujarat that we both don't like Humayun, let us come together. But Gujarat ruler is able to get a good understanding with Humayun, so he abandons the Portuguese. Cunha does not take it very well, and Cunha therefore is going to then fight with him, and he will not be able to technically get Surat again. They will never be able to capture Surat. That is the basic problem. So when we talk about Cunha's most important contribution is what? Come on, revision. Yes, shifting of capital to Goa. Now, they have Cochin, they have Calicut, they have Kannur, now they have Goa, they've taken Diu, they'll take Daman, they have Omas, they have Muscat. The Portuguese enjoy a proper domination in the Arabian Sea, but slowly but surely somebody was getting the conflict between Bahadur Shah of Gujarat and Portuguese is initially they went into an alliance to fight Humayun, but Humayun goes into an understanding with Gujarat, so therefore the Portuguese are abandoned. That leads to the concept of conflict between the Portuguese and the Gujarati ruler. He is not able to do anything, so now he turns his attention towards Bengal and Hooghly. Is everybody following me till this point? because the Portuguese stories is maximum 10% left. Okay. Kunya basic is shifting of capital to Goa and the attempt to take Gujarat, not successful. Now, the last major Portuguese governor is a person called Martin Alfonso de Souza. Alfonso de Souza had a different agenda itself in India. And his agenda was religious. Daman will come in 1935. In 1535. I'll talk about that. Don't worry. I'll give you in that whole concept. Basin Daman will come by 1540, 1545. I'll give you that. So, De Souza will now try to introduce Catholicism in India. What is Catholic Christianity? Christianity is the religion of the Portuguese, and they are what are called Orthodox Christians. There are two types of Christians in the world: Protestants and Catholics. Catholics are the more conservative ones. Protestants a little bit more liberal in that sense. So he will in turn allow a very important personality to come to India, and his name is Francis Xavier. Francis Xavier is a Jesuit. Jesuit is a Christian missionary who converts to Catholic Christianity. He will arrive in India with him. He will even go to China and try to introduce Catholic Christianity there. However, in China he will die. He will be buried in China. But his followers were so obsessed with him that they will go and dig up his grave in China and bring him to Goa and rebury him in Goa, in what is called now the Old Goa Church, Bon Jesus Biciclea in Goa. That is Francois Xavier's tomb in that sense, or where he is reburied in that sense. So, for the purpose of the examination, now let's go into the orientation of the examination. We'll talk about the Portuguese India. Please, 3-4 things I want an assertion from you. Almeida, Albuquerque, Souza, Xavier. 4 names you can remember for me. What was the capital before Goa? Kochi. You can remember these 4 names. Now, they are not a problem for you in the larger story. If anybody says Albuquerque, Almeida, Souza, or Xavier, great. That is not a problem. The second is how they open up their wings, or how they start to spread their root in India. Basic story is clear. I'll write their names, don't worry. Basic story is clear. If it is clear, before I go to the impact of the Portuguese coming to India, I'll do one thing, which is that I'll give you this timeline and it should totally consolidate what we've done till this point. Now, this is how you revise in history. And this is a very standard feature which I'm going to do with you. As I go on, I will keep on expanding. I'll keep on expanding the timeline itself. Keep on expanding the timeline. So, we've still not reached even 1600. So, 1488, 1498, 1500, 1501, 1503, 1505, 1507, 1509, 1510, 1529, 1535, 34 rather, 34. 1534. Now, very simply, this is Vasco da Gama coming to India, and Zamorians are welcoming. Oh, 14, no, this is Diaz, that is 1498. 14, I thought I started from 14. This is Diaz reaching the Cape of Good Hope, opening up a route to Indian Ocean. You pointed out, get it, totally great, which means that you remember, perfect. Now, 1498, Vasco da Gama comes to India for the first time via sea route. Zamorians are welcoming. Now, 1500, Cabral comes to India, creates conflict with the Zamorians. Calicut lost. 1501, Vasco da Gama. The Gama is back, but Zamorians are not welcoming. 1503 is finally they establishing their first colony or settlement in India, permanent factory at Kochi. Thereafter, 1505, they get Kannur added as settlement. 1507 is Battle of Chaul. This is Battle of Dew. Herein Almeida loses to alliance of Gujarat and Egypt. Almeida wins and asserts Portuguese power in India. Goa is taken from the Bijapur rulers. Kunya shifts capital from Kochi to Goa, and this is not clear. 1534. In 1534, they finally get Basin and Daman sector under their control. Basin is nothing but Maharashtra. So this is what we've done. This is what we've done. Right? This is what we've done. So if I ask you to revise in this way, can you do that? Second governor is Albuquerque. What you need to remember here is Almeida, Albuquerque, then Kunya, then the Souza, and the important personality under the Souza is what we call as Francois Xavier. The basic point of the matter is, first, how settlement came, factory settlement here, class. Again, Kochi, there was already the local rulers who had gone into an understanding with Cabral. Vasco da Gama builds on that, and Almeida is able to find a small factory in Kochi. Kochi becomes the first factory of the Portuguese in India. When first factory, again systemic issue, first factory. There should be no doubt with regards to this. 1529, shifting of capital. Again, I know there will be another date on Google, don't worry about that. Is this timeline clear? 1510, Goa is captured from Bijapur rulers. Thereafter, Vijayanagar understanding is there. 1529, Kunya shifts the capital from Kochi to Goa, and thereafter they consolidate their presence in India. I am just telling you one thing, which is that do not need to go anything beyond the discussion I am having here. This should be able to give you any form of basic understanding with regards to the Portuguese coming to India and any form of question with regards to timelines. The importance of timelines is that basically it helps you in learning, revising quickly. So tomorrow, before coming to class, just revise this timeline and it should be clear. 1534 is the period in which they are finally able to get their last or more important presence in the Maharashtra sector via what is called as basin. Basin is a small island off the coast of Maharashtra. You don't have to worry about Catholic Christianity, world history, I will do it with you. They are just Catholic Christians. You need to remember, Chandan, again, you want the timelines. I am asking you to remember Almeida, Albuquerque, Cunha, and De Souza. Can you remember this sequence? Yes. Then why do you want to add another set of dates? You want another set of dates, you take it. 1505 to 1509. Then 1509 to 1515. Then you have another set, 1529 to 38. Then you have 1542 to 45. But why would I bother when I know the sequence itself? De Souza is the only, he starts to consolidate. The most important development under him is the coming up of a very important Christian missionary, which is his only important contribution is allowing Francis Xavier to come to India and operate and spread Christianity. Can we agree to all these things? Because then I discuss basic impact and then we take a break. Goa is captured by whom? You tell me. Who captured Goa? Who captured Goa? Which governor? Albuquerque. That is the basic point. Here it says 1510. I'll write it in the timeline. By Albuquerque. Now complete. Can I move on? Is this helping? Is it making sense? Because the whole history of modern India can be done only on timeline itself. Abolition of sati also Albuquerque. Right? I need everybody's assertion. If you've never raised your hand, never said yes, anything, you need to say it right now. Because then I shift into the impact of the Portuguese coming to India. Right? Great. Now, the Portuguese come to India. They were the first to issue these cartas, or what we call as blue water policy of Almeida. Their fortified outposts served as custom stations, wherein Asian merchants were to acquire cartas a letter of protection which would save them from being attacked and ransacked by the Portuguese on the high seas. Thus, they indulged in armed control of sea, and they also used frietoras to consolidate trade. This is big estates of land and agriculture. So what they do is that they settle, they create a basic factory, and then around it create a very big estate. So that way it looks like a small castle in that sense. Small castle. Is sir live? Sikandar, obviously I'm live. If I'm not live, then how can I take your questions? You didn't come in my dream last night and I am in my recording last night. I know that I have to take your name. I'm fully alive and fully live. So this is not a recording. I'm alive and I'm live. This is, see, you look at my phone, it says 6:33. So I'm live. I'm surely live. So I'll give a break after this discussion. I'm live totally. So it can't be that you came, if it's a recording, then how am I taking names? And if I'm actually not live, then how am I taking your doubts real time? So I hope there's no doubt, right? Am I live, Sikandar? I'm literally drinking water in front of you. You're asking me, am I live or not? Sikandar has to say yes. Sikandar, am I live? Come on. Okay. Somehow you think it is not live. It's totally live. Totally live. I can move around if you want. I can move around. So don't worry about that. Okay. So Sikandar is not live. Very good. Very good. Now, pani I can still drink in recording. So you want, what proof do you want? You tell me. Water is not a proof that I'm live. So I can I can drink water. So I showed you my phone. It's 2nd February 6:34 p.m. It's funny. Okay. Now, the basic point is, this is nothing but talking about the politics of the British, of the Portuguese, what they were doing in India. Simply blue waters policy. It is explaining what is the Carta system. And second, they used to create a factory and then surround it with a lot of land, thereby creating very big estates. And these estates were like small castles. It's like a small fort which they used to have. The fort they used to have. Now, let us discuss about the impact. What did the Portuguese bring to India? Now, most probably the most eaten vegetable in India, aloo, potato, was actually potato, whatever. Potato was brought to India by the Portuguese. Take my name, Madhav. The basic point of the matter is, a lot of the vegetables which we eat in India, potato, corn, pineapple, sweet potato, tomato, ladyfinger, tobacco, chili, papaya, sapota, lychee, orange, almond, groundnut, black pepper, but a different type, a different variety, and cashew, all were in India, or were introduced in India because of the Portuguese. Before the Portuguese, potato was not known, not basically grown at a large scale. Maybe 2-3 people knew it, 2-3 places they would be making it. But the way mass eating of aloo or potato starts, it is not actually there before the Portuguese. So a lot of Latin American, what is called the South American cuisines and South American vegetables were introduced. Our peasant was very happy to produce these, They also made naval power very, very important. And that is why shipbuilding and Kochi go together. One of the best, all of these, the Navy's ships, which are indigenously built, are built in Kochi. They were also the first to bring the printing press into India, and they actually printed the Bible into Kannada and Malayalam. And basically, the Portuguese showed to the world that it is very, very important, very, very important to have naval power in India. Before we talk about decline, I'll just revise the timeline again with you, which is given in this type of flowchart. 1498, Da Gama lands in Calicut. 1503, Kochi. 1505, Kannur. 1509, Battle of Dew, when Almeida wins over them. 1510, Bijapur is captured by Albuquerque. 1529, Goa becomes the capital. 1535, Dew is fully subjugated. 1534, they already had basin. 1539, Portuguese are technically fully powerful in the Arabian Sea because they're able to defeat the combined forces of even the Egypt, Zamorian and the Gujarat Sultanate. And by 1559, Daman is captured properly. So I have two types of timelines. I give you this timeline also, but I have it in the PPT also. The basic point of the matter is the Portuguese established what is called Estado da India, which is the state of the Portuguese in India, Portuguese. So first is Kochi, then Kannur, then you have Goa, then you get Calicut, then you get the Battle of Chaul, then you have Dew, then you have Daman, and you have basin. The basic area of their understanding is mostly in this area. They have a very small settlement in Hooghly, but that never became too big. Basically, before I take a break, let's run through. And this time, I want you to do it with me. In your mind or on a piece of paper, if you have it in front of you. Very simply, Vishwa, what is the issue? What is the issue? The basic point of the matter is, let us revise again. 1488, 1498, 1500, 1501, 1503, 1505, 1507, 1509, 1510, 1529, 1534, 1559. Now, very simply, what is the importance of these periods? Diaz, Vasco da Gama first comes to India. Cabral comes to India, creates problem. Vasco da Gama returns. This is Kochi. This is Kannur. Battle of Chaul. You asked me where is Chaul? Chaul is here. This is Chaul. This is Chaul. This is Dew. So, Battle of Chaul, Battle of Dew. Goa comes to their control. Shifting of capital from Kochi to Goa. The concept of basin is here. Basin comes here. And thereafter, by 1559, they have Daman, which is their most latest or last settlement in that sense. Can you now create a basic picture of their expansion in India? Come on, tell me. Who is not basin? What is basin? Basin is a place. Can I give you a break and I assume that till this point everything is clear? Okay, great. What about basin? As I said, basin, it says here 35, 29, 34, 35, Dew basin, all here. See, this whole sector comes to them. This whole sector comes to them in 1529. My basic point is, Dutch I have to explain to you, then I can only technically explain to you decline. Very simply. If they say Albuquerque, Cunha, Almeida, Francois Xavier buried in China, brought back and buried in India again, And basic dates: 1529 shifting of capital, 1503 Kochi. You can remember these things, right? Which governor shifted capital? Kunya, Nino de Kunya. Can I take a break? Because then I go and complicate the issue even more by adding the Dutch to the story. Souza is the last major governor. Don't have to learn all the governors. See, you need to understand one thing. We don't need to do a thesis on the Portuguese. For the purpose of this examination, smart study is important than blindless hard work. My understanding is whatever dates I've given to you is more than enough. Don't even worry about the dates after this. If you can remember till 1529 shifting of capital from Kochi to Goa, thereafter they're just consolidating in the Gujarat and Maharashtra sector. 1534 he gets Basin, 1535 they get Diu, 1559 they get Daman. I'll write it so that 1534 is Basin, 1535 is Diu, 1559 is Daman. Is this clear? Anything outside this for the examination you don't need. There is no need to complicate it. 1510 is Goa. 1510 is Goa. 1510 is Goa. 1503, 1505. Again, Cochin, Kannur. Simple. 1559. Finally, they capture Daman and Diu, two important sectors across the question. Okay. Again, Shalu, I don't know when did I say that story to you. What reference you are saying that? Please put the timeline page. I'll put the timeline page. No issues. One second. I'll put the timeline page. I'll give you a 10-minute break. Don't worry about that. See, if you want to add Calicut to the story, see, Kochi, Kannur, 1509, Bijapur, and 1535. Then Calicut by the time. And see, I'll tell you one more thing. If you look at this map, against every settlement, the year is also given. Against every settlement, the year is also given. But the basic point of the matter is, I don't want you to complicate it this much. I actually don't want you to complicate this much. I want you to keep it simple. Very simple, straightforward. Can you remember this basic timeline for me? If you can, then we take a break, because there is a lot of dates which I need to give you. I'm leaving you with this. Can you remember this much for the examination? I don't need to add more. For me, Kochi, Goa, Kannur is important. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. So it is now 6:45. 6:45. We come back at 6:50. That time, for a very, very long time, meaning from 1498 to 1602, there was no challenger to the Portuguese in India when it comes to European powers. Basically, the Portuguese were the most important, the only European power in India. But the Portuguese were so useless that they were just happy to get small dots in India. Kochi, Kannur, Goa, Diu, Basin, Daman. They wanted to control the water, but they never wanted to go inside India. which is that they never wanted to conquer or fight with anybody beyond their factory. So basically, the Portuguese left a gap in India, because if you and me were the Portuguese, we have close to 100 years to expand in India. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. But they are enjoying controlling the Arabian Sea itself, and that too, they don't even control it properly also. So the problem is that the Portuguese, though presence in India since 1500 in that sense, for 102 years, they technically just were happy to create these dots in India, all these small dots. So the Portuguese never, though they colonize, but they don't colonize at a scale which was the British or even the French wanted to do it. The Portuguese were just happy. It's not about strong Mughal rule also. The Portuguese had a navy to defeat anyone at this point of time. It's actually not even that. There was no inclination itself. So the problem is in them. It is in their approach which is the problem. Which is that they actually don't have the inclination. They're happy to do what they're doing. So the flaw of the Portuguese colonialism in India was, it is extremely limited. Extremely limited. Now in 1600s, 17th century, different countries in Europe now become conscious of the importance of India, because of the importance of India. So the Portuguese were the first to come to India, and now the Dutch, Netherlands, Dutch will become the second European power to become interested in India. The next will be the English. Thereafter, a small country of Danes and Denmark. And the last is going to be the French. This again comes in the examination, the sequence of European powers in India, Portuguese, and this is based on settlements, based on first settlements. Portuguese were the first to come to India. Second were the Dutch, then the English, then the Danes, and once the French come out of their sleep, they become the last power to come to India itself. They were sleeping the whole time, didn't even realize the importance of India, but the Portuguese had the most important or most longest period of monopoly or non-interference from any European power, because the Dutch will rise and now become a problem for the Portuguese. Can I discuss how the Dutch will become a problem for the Portuguese? Can we discuss this? Yes? Okay. So the geography is clear. The sequence is clear. Please remember, the sequence comes in the examination, comes in standard basic questions. Remember the basic sequence of the European powers in India. Portuguese the first and technically the last also. Very good. Technically Portuguese the first and the last. French were also the last to come and last to leave also, because they will have what is called Pondicherry. So P, D, E, but because there are two, P, do, DAF. P, do, DAF. Because there are two Ds, you need to know which is Dutch, which is Danes. That is the basic rule of making acronyms. You should not be confused in your own acronym itself. acronym itself. Shalu, these are all local rulers which they're taking it from. Now, can we now discuss the story? Come on, everybody has to now pay attention because a little bit of context is important here. A little bit of context is important. Now, see, the Dutch come to India and they very quickly start to undercut the Portuguese. The Portuguese say, take cartas from us. Dutch says, why? Portuguese say, we will destroy your ship. Dutch says, let's fight it out. So basically, the monopoly of the Portuguese in the Arabian Sea was now very quickly fading away. Very quickly fading away. The Portuguese will be able to do one thing for sure, which is that they will not allow the Dutch to establish their first settlement on the west coast. Rather, their first settlement will turn up in the east coast, in what is called Mauslipatnam. I'll show it to you on a map also. And Mauslipatnam, which is on this side of India, they will be able to establish a basic rule in India. The Dutch will happily defeat the Portuguese in every interaction, be it the Indian sector or be it the Indian Ocean. But the problem was that though the Dutch came and very quickly went after the Portuguese, they were rather not interested in India itself. They wanted to control this area. This very narrow waterway is called the Straits of Malacca. And the Dutch wanted to control access to basically China. They wanted to make sure that if you're coming from here, going from here to South China Sea and going to China, they were extremely interested in making sure that the Straits of Malacca become important. So though the Dutch rise and very simply take away power from the Portuguese, establish 2-3 colonies, 2-3 settlements here, their interest was never fully in India. Never fully in India, because they became interested in what we call as Indonesia today. And their Indonesian settlement, Dutch settlement called the Dutch East Indies, was really their basic and most important obsession in the larger Indian Ocean world. So what you can see here is Portuguese come first, don't get interested in India too much. Dutch come, defeat the Portuguese for personal satisfaction, but they also do not look towards the Indian sector. And this is why when the English will turn up, India was an open canvas for them. Now, the first Dutch to land into India is a person called Cornelius de Houtman. The basic point is clear. Why Dutch are interested in controlling China trade than Indian trade. They don't want to control India, but rather Chinese trade. Okay. So Cornelius de Houtman was the first Dutchman to reach Sumatra and Bantam, both technically Indonesia itself. In 1602, once they get to know the potential of India, the King of Netherlands appoints what is called East India Company of Netherlands. But if you write East India Company in Dutch, the first letters are VOC. And that is why the Dutch East India Company is called VOC. It's called VOC. English East India Company is called EIC, East India Company. But in the examination, if you see the word VOC, it means it's the Dutch. Because the Dutch spelling of the Indian Ocean, the East India Company, first word E comes as V, I, and C. You just need to remember here, Don't have to remember colonies, the Ottoman, don't have to remember that. 1602 VOC is established. Can we agree to this much? Can we agree to this much? How do you remember these names? 15 minutes rule. Just learn certain facts every day in the morning, revise them in the evening, revise, it will automatically come to you. Very simply, first Dutchman to come to this Asian sector, Kannur is the Ottoman, but the Dutch realized the open canvas of Asia. They automatically established their East India Company. Though it was established after the English, still they were the first to come to India. And the VOC, why am I telling you VOC? VOC, I know 1600 the EIC will be formed, but they will come later than the English will come later. Basic point is, in the examination, if it says VOC, will you be clear about what it means? Yes? Great. Now, this VOC was empowered to carry out war in India, to conclude treaties in India, and to erect fortresses. Basically, go after the Portuguese. Go after the Portuguese. After their arrival, they will find the first settlement in India at a place called Mauchlypatnam. This is Mauchlypatnam, the old name. They don't need to learn the full form of VOC. If I give you a Dutch spelling of it, what will you do with it? VOC means Mauchlypatnam is the first name. Now it's called Mauchlypatnam. The basic point of the matter is, VOC is the Dutch spelling. Does not matter to you. It just means East India Company of Dutch. That's it. East India Company of Dutch. So their first presence in India, SMEs do one thing, just push the VOC full form in the public chat. Just push the name, you will see the name, and then you will automatically realize why am I not telling you the full form. So one of you just push the full form of VOC. So rather than Mohan, I have not seen your question. Rather than concentrating on the Arabian Sea sector, they rather go towards the Bay of Bengal. So the SMEs pushed it. Verinde Oshishe Company. So you really want to learn that name? Do you want to learn that name? What has been just pushed to you on your screen? So why does it really matter? Dutch East Indies, VOC. Now you get it why it is VOC. Verinde Oshe Company, VOC. So why bother? Leave it. Now, Bay of Bengal is where they first established themselves. So very simply, Dutch arrive, start to undercut the Portuguese, and in 1605 they are able to establish their trading centers. They now start to even capture further, which is they go to Nagapattinam near Chennai, and very simply the stronghold of the Portuguese in Bay of Bengal is taken away. That is why you will see in the slide which says decline, it says Dutch. The Dutch single-handedly challenged and destroyed the monopoly of the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean world. Please, one of the SMEs take Mohan Pravansai's question. I can't see that, but please take his question. I have not seen the question, or you can push it to me also. The basic point of the matter is the Dutch are the single-handed reason why the Portuguese will start to lose their control over the Bay of Bengal. And once they are able to establish themselves in Mauchlypatnam, they will start to expand. Which is that they will go as inwards as Uttar Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar. The Dutch will trade totally inwards. In 1609, they will get Calicut. Thereafter, Their other principal factories are going to be Surat, which Portuguese never were able to control or even have a presence in. Then Vichilipatnam, Karikal, Chinsura and Baranagar. These are two both in Calcutta sector. Then Kasim Bazar, Nagapatnam, and in the end in Kochi. In the end in Kochi, 1663. So if you look at their map in India, you will realize that their presence is more towards this side. So what they do is that they stay away, they break the back of the Portuguese here, but they rather concentrate on this sector so that they can secure the Straits of Malacca. So now the basic point is, what do you need to remember for the Dutch? Can you remember for the Dutch first colony or first establishment, Mausilipatnam, first presence in India? Can you remember this? You can remember this? Very good. 1602 is the establishment of the VOC, Then very simply 1609 and 1616 Calicut and Surat. If you can remember these three, you will be able to answer any question, because they will ask you to put them in chronological order. MPS is what you need to remember for the examination. Establishment of the VOC in 1602, 05, 09, 1616. Can we agree to this much? Because my story does not really revolve around the Dutch, but the English. That is the most important. Again, I am repeating the basic point. Very simple. Between 1498 and 1602, who has a monopoly over the Indian Ocean? The Portuguese. The Dutch realized the potential of India and China, and their East India Company is established, which is called the VOC. Once their East India Company is established, they now come to India. The Portuguese say, India is my monopoly. The Dutch systematically hit the Portuguese in the Arabian Sea, weaken them, and take their settlements on the eastern coast because they wanted to look towards Straits of Malacca. The Portuguese, however, were saved by the fact that the Dutch were more interested in Indonesia than in India. So though these two powers are there constantly clashing, the Indian subcontinent still remained fully independent in that sense, with these small settlements in the east and the west coast. For me, as I said, Portuguese matter, English matter. Dutch is just filler. And the Dutch, as I said, will become predominant in the Indonesian sector, one of the most ruthless power in the Indonesian sector, but will never be really interested in India. Can we agree to this basic point? Okay. MPSC basic is their formation or the basic concept of Mausilipatnam, Calicut and Surat. I've given you this here. You don't need to worry about this too much. Surat, Vichilipatnam, Karikal, Chinsura and Kochi is in the end. Basically remember MPS, Mausilipatnam, Calicut and Surat. Surat is important because the Portuguese were never able to do it. The Portuguese were never able to do it what the Dutch were able to, which is make a trading post. Now, what did they do? They carried indigo, Neil, manufactured in the Yamuna Valley, Central India, textiles from Bengal, Gujarat, Coromandel coast, saltpeter. Saltpeter is added to barud, to gunpowder to make it flammable. Opium, rice from the Ganga Valley. They conquered Sri Lanka away from the Portuguese in 1658. And the basic point is Sri Lanka will be fully lost by the Portuguese. It will go to the Dutch, but the Dutch will then give it to the British when they will fight the Napoleonic Wars, which I'll tell you, talk about, which is Napoleon, France fighting with the European powers. So don't have to worry about this point again. I will discuss it further. Basic point, basic to basic point. What do we need to remember about the Dutch? Very simply, see, the local kingdoms are the problem here. They do not actually understand the danger what the European powers are posing. I'm again very simply telling you, VOC is established in Netherlands. They come to India after 3 years in 1605. Again, I'm contextualizing these two together. Please listen to me. Portuguese have a monopoly, Kochi first factory. Dutch come and break that monopoly, Moslippatnam first factory. The basic point of the matter is these two interact, but they don't technically capture India. The local rulers are happy to give them space, but they don't realize the potential or the dangers of doing that, be it the East Coast, be it the West Coast. And simply the presence of the Dutch was the first sign of trouble for the Portuguese. But the real power we are very, very interested in, and that is what is going to come in the examination, and you can expect a mains question also, is how did the British establish their rule in India? Can I discuss that? Because Dutch, three basic facts: 1602, 1605, 1609, 1616, Moslippatnam, Surat, and Moslippatnam, then Calicut, and then Surat. Is this clear? We don't have to get fixated on the Dutch. What really matters to me is very simply 1602 formation of the Dutch in the VOC in England, in Netherlands, and then coming to India and forming it in 1605 Moslippatnam. These two powers are there in India. Can we agree to this? Again, 1602 they form in Netherlands, Shalu. That is why they will come to India, find a place. That is why 3 years gap. I need your assertion. I need your understanding to be clear, because now what we do is one of the most important discussions, which is the English. Once the English will come to India, everything will change. Everything will change. Can I assume that the basic story of Dutch and Portuguese is done? That is all filler, all filler. What is important is this moment, what we are going to discuss now. Okay. First factory, Moslippatnam. First factory, Moslippatnam. First factory, there, Kochi. Okay. Anjali, again, simply Dutch interested in India, came in 1605, established their first settlement in Moslippatnam, started to expand in India with small settlements, but their real interest was in Indonesia, which they will hold for a very long time. The Portuguese were saved by the fact that the Dutch didn't care about India. Now, in 1602, East India Company of the Dutch is established in Netherlands, because that is a company, public company. I'm coming to that concept. It's a governmental company which comes to India and established in 1605. It takes time to come to India. That is why the time difference, and takes time to negotiate. Now, full clean slate. Portuguese, Dutch are in India. Now I really don't care about them. Forget them. They're in the background. Now I want your 110% attention. Can I discuss this with you? Kusunath, you will not find any of this discussion in any book. So please concentrate. That is why the PPTs have been made by amalgamating different sources. Okay. The Dutch come in 1605. Now listen to me. See, there are two types of company in the world, right? Public and private. Private company, public company. Public means government company, which is that this is owned by the state, or government. This is owned by private individual. Private individual. Example of, for example, public company, BSNL, MTNL, ONGC, GAIL, SAIL, whatever you want to say. A private company, for example, Apple, Google, Byjus, all basic what we call as private companies, owned by a private individual, owned by a state. So you understand the difference between public and private. Tata, private company, very good. Now, when it comes to a government company, which will be more proactive with regards to getting profit, trying to hustle it out in the market, which will be more proactive? It will be the private company. It will be the private company because they need a profit. They want to get a profit. Public company know that if we get a profit, we don't get a profit, we will still get money from the government next year. So, if this is clear, there's a commonality between the Portuguese and the Dutch, which is that both operate in India via governmental support and agencies, which is that the Dutch VOC was a public company, it was a public company, which means that the initial money to establish it and also the maintenance of the company, money is sanctioned by the government. This is technically common to both. Now, can you realize why they only want to operate from these small spots? Because they don't want to take the tension of going inside India. They are like, we are dominating trade, so why bother? So there is this type of comfort and no orientation to expand quickly, as everything is already paid for. Are you getting this point? That what is common to the Portuguese and the Dutch? Their lethargy, their slowness to respond to things is rather based on the nature of the company. The nature of the company is public. Is this point clear and this basic understanding clear? Why are they lethargic? Why are they slow? And why do they not actually show enthusiasm or orientation to go too much into India? Same point is there today. Airtel Jio will offer you much better offers than BSNL, MTNL. MTNL is in loss, does not matter. MTNL or BSNL, government pumps up money. The same thing which was happening with Air India. Very simply, public companies don't care if they need to be very proactive, need to be very, very enthusiastic, to be profit oriented, because they're not answerable to anybody. Not answerable to the people. They're just answerable to the government. Basic point is lack of very good innovation, optimism, accountability, and the orientation for profit. Can we agree to this? If this is a basic understanding between you and me, This is going to be the basic understanding. Corruption, whatever you want to call it, separate issue altogether. Very good. Now the English are getting to know about India. They are becoming more and more interested. In 1579, a trader comes to India. His name is rather a trader Jesuit, meaning a Catholic Jesuit from England. Thomas Stevens comes to India and he gets to know about India, but he lands in Goa. So he knows, okay, the Portuguese are making a lot of money. There's a lot of scope in India. So it is the Jesuit network which puts the English in India, wherein Thomas Stevens is able to come with a Portuguese trader. He himself is trading a little bit, but he's technically a missionary, and he's able to understand, okay, there's a lot of profit which can come in India in Goa. Then in 1590, a person called Ralph Finch, I'll write everything down, but listen to me. Ralph Finch comes to India, and Ralph Finch reaches Akbar's court, and they get to know that this is the amount of money which can be generated in India. Akbar, one of the most prosperous empires, the gold, silver, India was like, and as it was a gold, sone ki chidiya. It was a bird made of gold. And now the Portuguese the English start to get more and more interested. Now in 1599, another person comes, his name is John Middlehall, and he is again now getting more and more interested in finding a way to root their presence in India. So between 1579, 1590 and 1599, three people, Thomas Stevens, Ralph Finch, and John Mildenhall. These three are the first English to come to India. He is a Jesuit, Christian missionary, lands in Goa. He goes to Akbar's court and he trades in Western Coast. These three names don't matter to you, but this point is clear. What are the Indian kings doing? They are still in their illusion of power, which I'll tell you. They're in illusion of power. So these three now are sending back messages to England. India is profitable. India can be a major profit to the English. Is this point clear? Akbar again doesn't care. For Akbar, the Mughals literally used to laugh on the English when they used to look at their attire. And when they used to ask, who do you rule for? So they used to say, we rule for the queen. They used to laugh even more, saying that they are employed by a woman. So they never took the English very seriously. This is what actually the English will exploit. Their devilish innocence, which I will tell you. Very simply, the messages are going to England that India is prosperous. Can we agree to this much? We can agree to this much? Great. Now what happens is that the British Crown is approached by a lot of traders. Please, like the Dutch, please give us or create a company. But the English Crown say, we don't care. we don't want to invest. Too much tension, too much money, we don't want to invest. Now, what happens is that the East India Company, therefore, did not get any funding from the English Crown. English Crown denies or does not establish a government funded company, and rather the first form of the East India Company is called merchant adventurers. The merchant adventurers, this was the original form. This is the first name of East India Company. It is established not as a government funded company, but as a joint stock company. Now, we need to understand what does it mean that it is a joint stock company. Everybody is following me till this point? What is the concept of non-governmental funding? And now merchant adventurers, which is going to later become East India Company, was formed as and will always remain, will be formed as a joint stock company. Let's discuss this concept. What do you need to start a company? What is that most important resource you need to start a company? You need money, capital. Capital is needed. So now the British Crown has said, we don't give you money. I don't want to take the tension. Go, you are merchant adventurers, do adventure. We will not give you our own money. So now what they do is, they say that let's do one thing. We 50-60 people, for example, are interested in starting this company. So very simply they say, everybody contributes 100 pounds. Contribute 100 pounds each. So the initial capital comes from the private individuals. So therefore, when East India Company is created, Dutch is fully funded by the government, Portuguese is fully funded by the government. It is technically created via one individual contributing 100 pounds. This person is going to be called as what? Is going to be called as what? When you put some money into a company, what are you called? You are called an investor, but the entity which you hold is technically a stock, is a basic stock. So therefore, this investor is a stockholder. I'll give you a very simple company. We all want to start a company today which makes mobile phones. Now, I don't have the money, you don't have the money, but together we have the money. So I say, all of you contribute 1 rupee, and I will also contribute 1 rupee, and against that 1 rupee, you will get 1% of the company. Meaning you hold one stock of the company. So you become a stakeholder. You become a stakeholder in the company, yes or no? You become a stakeholder. So very simply, this is why the company, East India Company, is called joint, because of people coming together. Stock, because it is based on investors. And company, it is a purely private body. Purely private body. The state did not give even 1 rupee. Very simply, the East India Company is a private body with capital invested of private individuals. Is this point clear? Why it is called joint stock company? Because the initial money is not given by the public. Very good. So the merchant adventurers, Dutch East India Company is public. Merchant adventurers, which is the original form, is actually a joint stock company. Now, if you are a stockholder, what do you want? What do you want? You want a stockholder, shareholder, all words are the same. Stockholder, stakeholder, shareholder. But stock is the right word because it was a company which was available in the market. You want profit. But when an investor gets profit from their investment in a company, it is called dividend. Dividend is the profit distributed to the investor, stockholder, shareholder, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. Now, the East India Company used to operate via what is called the court of directors. Directors. This is nothing but like the directors of the company. It's like a board. You would have heard recently that the Adani company, the board has now said that we don't want to go for further FPO. Separate issue altogether. But they said that the board does not want to go. Same way, technically, these are individuals elected from amongst the shareholders to run the company. So now let me bring all of this information together. East India Company of the English is a joint stock company, purely private body. It is operated or controlled by the court of directors, and more than that, it is answerable to the shareholders. I'll tell you, Shivani, what happens next. Don't worry. Answerable to the shareholders, and the company is always under pressure to produce a profit, as it has to transfer dividend. Can we agree to these three things? Again, Memona, just push it again. I have not seen it. Okay, very good. Now, all of this is all good. But the crown still does not understand or realize the importance of India. And the importance of India, companies always under pressure because they have to give dividend to their own shareholders, so they have to generate a profit. They're answerable to their shareholders. It's a purely what we call as private body. Now what happens is there starts what is called an Anglo-Dutch rivalry or English-Dutch rivalry in the political sphere. In the political sphere. And the merchant adventurers say that if you really want to go after the Dutch, we need to beat them in trade. But the English crown is still so miser that they still don't want to invest in the company. But the East India Company shareholders, most of its shareholders, most of them were technically MPs of the Parliament in England, Parliament of England. The members of Parliament, the MLAs and MPs, had put in a lot of money into East India Company. So now the crown is getting more and more eager to fight the Dutch in the political sphere. And the MPs want to make what? The MPs want to make what? Profit. So now the MPs go to the crown and say, you didn't give us money? No tension. But you remove the competition of the East India Company from England itself. That you give the East India Company a monopoly over the Indian Ocean. And that is called Royal Charter. Royal Charter. The crown authorized the East India Company via the Royal Charter to be the only English company which could operate in Indian Ocean world. Very simply, if you can see this map, any ship which is east of the Cape of Good Hope, that ship needed to have two flags. One, the British flag, and the other, the East India Company flag. By giving this royal charter, what did the British Crown do? You tell me. They are Memuna, they are called both. They are called East India Companies in both, but that's called VOC, this is called EIC. Very good. They very simply have given a monopoly to the East India Company in India, but that is significant because there will be no English versus English. It will just be English versus the Dutch versus the Portuguese. They have eliminated internal competition. Imagine today the government of India says that we authorize the Tata company to be the only company which can operate in Australia. So what they do it via is the charter. Exact same thing is what is happening here, which is the East India Company has now been given a virtual monopoly to operate in India. Vis-a-vis no other English company will come and touch them, and not even basically even compete with them. So if the concept of royal charter makes sense, can I bring all of this discussion together? Eliminate English versus English. Perfect. I hope you're following me till this point. Is this making sense? Why is that the English was so desperate and much more aggressive in India? Because they're constantly under pressure, because they're a private company. Basically, this is the major difference between the Portuguese and the Dutch. They are public, but the English is private. So let me bring all of this information together. So in 1600, the East India Company is established in London, England. So though the East India Company is established much before the Dutch, but they are late to come to India. They are established in 1600 itself. I am coming to that. The East India Company is established in London, England as a joint stock company which was granted a monopoly over Indian Ocean or East Indies via the Royal Charter of the English Crown. And ironically, this crown, this Royal Charter initially was only 15 years. Every 15 years, for 15 years. Every 15 years, it needed to get renewed. But once James the Second, James the First and Second will come, they will make it perpetual till the question will come in 1813, what are called the Charter Acts. Basically, in India, there will be no one else from the English or England to compete with the East India Company. Can we agree? Now does it make sense? Basically making the East India Company much more aggressive and more hungry for power. Can we agree? I'll then show it to you on a timeline also. Can we agree to this? Does East India Company? Yes, till in India, today still the East India Company exists. Guess who owns the East India Company today? Actually, an Indian owns, not the government of India. An Indian British citizen owns the East India Company. That is the irony of the story. The East India Company is today owned by an Indian in England, not by the government of India, obviously, but by an Indian. And basically, this was the company which perpetuated every horror which could happen in India, and basically, Indian. Now, let's discuss the English. I'll read everything what I've discussed with you here. See, in 1579, Thomas Stevens, a refuge Jesuit, was the first Englishman to sail around the Cape of Good Hope, and he landed in Goa. In 1590s, Ralph Fitch came to India under the reign of Akbar. 1599, John Mildenhall came to India via land route, somehow find a way, but then was able to see the sea route being used by the Portuguese and the Dutch. Now what happens is, looking at the potentiality, Sanjeev Mehta, not Rishi Sunak. Come on, you know. A new trading body was formed by a group of merchants called the Merchant Adventurers under the charter, and they used to call themselves the Governor and the Company of Merchants of London trading into the East Indies. Does not roll over the tongue too much, too complicated a name. So when on December 31st, 1600, Queen Elizabeth I issues the charter, they rename themselves as the East India Company, and this monopoly was given for only 15 years, and it needed to be renewed after reviewing what was done in the first 15 years. Very simply, this part of the story is irrelevant. Can you remember this much? Royal Charter given in 1600, 31st December 1600. Yes? Now, very simply, the driver of all of this is technically the Anglo-Dutch rivalry, which is the English-Dutch rivalry. And the basic point is, as soon as the English come, they now undercut the Dutch. So the Portuguese were undercut by the Dutch, and then the English will come to technically undercut the Dutch. And there was a major moment in 1623 when the Dutch and the English clashed in Indonesia at a place called Aboyana, and here the Dutch tortured the English and some of the Japanese merchants which were there on the English ship, and this will make the English and the East India Company totally lose their mind, that the Dutch literally tortured English merchants to come out of the Dutch sector, and thereafter the English will never look towards Indonesia itself. So though the economic interest of the Dutch and the English clashed, the Dutch literally did the what is called the Aboyana massacre, in which they said, if you will come here, we will literally cut you. And that is why the English after this will never look towards Indonesia. They will now start to concentrate on the English Indian aspiration than the Indonesian aspiration. Pritam, that is not a problem. Just keep on revising and keep an atlas in front of you. It will not be a problem for you. Don't worry about that. Now, the next set of interesting things happen, that basically the first 4 or 5 years the English perform very well. The English perform very well, and the East India Company is able to technically make its presence felt in the Indian Ocean. Captain Hawkins will even go to Jahangir's court to get some concessions, but the Portuguese were sitting in the Mughal court by this point of time, and they will not allow the English to get any concession. And once the English are going to get to know that the Portuguese are sitting in the Mughal court, James I will say, I don't care. He will make the charter indefinite, meaning this 15 years rule is going to go away. So now let me start to create a picture of how they will undercut the British, undercut the Dutch, and undercut the Portuguese. Till this point, we have established one thing, which is that the English East India Company has been created because of the Dutch rivalry. It is a joint stock company which has a monopoly over India, and very simply, they are desperate to get a profit. Can we agree to this much? Okay. The clash with the Dutch in the Indonesian sector now makes them more desperate to be in Indian Ocean world. And more than that, once the English start to get to know that the Portuguese have literally created a monopoly, they will start to undercut the Portuguese. So the decline of the Portuguese is a dual process, English and Dutch both. So what happens is, see that Jahangir never liked the Portuguese too much. But they're sitting in the court. They are sitting in the court. Now, Jahangir did not have an answer to the naval power of the Portuguese. He did not have an answer to the naval power of the Portuguese. The English get the indefinite charter. In the English, the East India Company is invigorated. We can conquer anything. We will touch the sky. We will make sure that the Portuguese interest is undercut. So what happens is that the way the Portuguese win over Jahangir is by defeating the Portuguese in 2 battles. And that impresses Jahangir quite a lot. You see here, it says, between 1611 and 1650, in 1611, the Portuguese are defeated by English Captain Middleton, and in 1612, Captain Best is going to again defeat the Portuguese. Now Jahangir says, good, I have an answer to the Portuguese. But unfortunately, he was drinking poison in the form of the Portuguese. The answer to the Portuguese is technically shooting yourself in the head, which is the English, because the English are much more aggressive than the Portuguese. So you will see in the decline slide of the Portuguese, there's a very important line which is written. You see, with the rise of the English, Captain William Hawkins reaches with his ship Hector to Surat. This ship is very important because this is the first East India ship to properly dock into Surat. What is the first car which was introduced by MG in India? MG is Morrison Garage. It's a British company. What is it called? It's called MG Hector. So do you realize the significance of that name? The MG Hector car, Morrison Garage is a British company which was launched in India, its cars, and they gave it the name Hector. And Hector was the first ship, proper ship to dock of the East India Company in Surat. So I will revise, don't worry Hemant, don't worry, let me reach a point. He brought with him a letter from James I, the King of England, to the Mughal court of Jahangir requesting him to do permission in India. However, Father Pinheiro and the Portuguese authorities did their best to prevent Hawkins from reaching the Mughal court. However, Jahangir very happily accepted the gifts given by Hawkins, and after 1611, Jahangir's perception of the English changes. Now let me consolidate everything. Astor is the new one, not Hector. No, it is the first. Can I consolidate everything what we've done till this point? I know it's a long story, but we can consolidate everything together. Can we do that? Okay. Very simply, 1600 East India Company has been formed. Now, by 1608, East India Company ship docks in Surat under Captain Hawkins. Now, between 1608 to 1610-11, Portuguese constantly block English presence in Mughal court. Now, 1611 and 1612, Portuguese are defeated by the English, and this impresses Jahangir. Jahangir is impressed. Now, does it make sense? Is it not intermixing now? Ashita, can you remember this much? That East India Company formed. Portuguese obviously would not like the English to get a stronghold in India, but Jahangir himself was sick and tired of the Portuguese. Too much meddling. He himself wanted an answer to the Portuguese. And now the English defeat the Portuguese twice. Defeat him twice. And once defeats twice. Now Jahangir is impressed. I finally have an answer to this useless Portuguese. Father Pinheiro only telling me to do this, that, I don't care. But more than that, the English also gave very interesting gifts to Jahangir. He was very impressed. For the first time, Jahangir had never seen a spectacle. Never seen a spectacle. Chashma. He had never seen a chashma, a spectacle. And he was given a spectacle. He said, what magic is this? I can see things. He was given a globe. Jahangir was obsessed by the globe. When you do art and culture with me, his paintings have globe after globe after globe. He was given English wine. Loved it. And he said, these people are good. These English, see, English are very, very dangerous people. They know how to appease. They were like, we are the small, tuch English. We are the small English. We have come to the court of Jahangir with all these gifts. He was given the hourglass. Very fascinated by the hourglass. How does the hourglass work? And he makes them in the paintings. So Jahangir is impressed. Jahangir is very, very impressed. And now Jahangir will do two things which will technically be very, very disastrous for the Indian subcontinent. Can I discuss with you what he did? So literally filled Jahangir with gifts. Literally filled him up. Now what he will do is that, impressed by the British, now the first two orders by the Farmans or orders of Jahangir granted in 1613 and 1615 the English were allowed to establish first factory in Surat. This is why English are considered third. Mausolipatnam 1605, already in India. And in 1615, English can trade in Bengal with permission of Jahangir. Jahangir. Make sense, everybody? How these two moments are very, very important. Now, for the first time, the British get a foothold in India. They are able to establish the first factory at Surat. And the second is that they are given permission to go in trade in Bengal. Now, Is this point clear? Because thereafter I have to do a very important discussion with you, which is very, very important for the examination. Very good. Now what follows? What follows is a series of concessions and farmans which were the reason for the domination of the English in India. So 1613, 1615, first factory in Surat, permission to trade in Bengal. The Dutch are there in Surat, so they're just there. They can't fight with each other. Dutch can't stop anything. They're like traders. You can have your shop in Surat. Now, in peninsular India, there was a political formation here which is called Golconda. It's called, we'll discuss them. This is called the Deccani Sultanates. And the English have now turned their attention towards the Bay of Bengal, because Bengal is 60% of all their trade. So they need to secure the Bengal sector. So Golconda rulers were approached by the British. And see, when the British were trading via Mauchlypatnam, the Golconda state is divided into different parts. These are called, what is a part of a state called? What is it called? Provinces of the Golconda state. So if I bring something here, and then I go and sell it in different parts of the Golconda state. If I go and sell it in different parts of the Golconda state, I would have to pay taxes at every Tanu, I'll do that, don't worry. At every province. At every province I pay a tax. It is called internal. It's called internal duties. Much like what we have today. Or previously, every state has its own tax. So every province has its own tax. Is this point clear? Very good. Now the English, for example, if they bring 10 tons of a commodity, they were paying close to 500 pagodas. Pagodas is the currency of the Golconda state. 500 pagodas on an average. They were bringing in 10 tons into the Indian. For example, they were bringing in, wool. 10 tons of wool they bring, and if they sell it throughout the Golconda state, the total tax was coming to 500 pagodas. So what the English say to the ruler of Golconda, Do one thing. As it is, we have to pay 500 pagodas to you, but we are paying it at every province. Together it is adding up to be 500. You do one thing. From me, the little English, you take 500 lump sum. You take 500 lump sum, you take it right now, but then don't make me pay any taxes in the provinces. So the British say, we'll pay you 500 upfront. We'll pay you 500 once in a year. As it is, we will be giving you 500 throughout the year. Why not give it to you as a lump sum? And don't make us, or don't let us, or just exempt us from the internal duties. Are you getting the request of the English? That the request is, we as it is pay 500. You take it right now itself. We will not pay further. Basically, the request of the British is, take 500 pagodas annually and exempt us from the internal duties. And these over smart, not that smart in that sense also, very myopic rulers were happy. Were happy. 500 pagodas upfront, I will buy a new elephant. They are happy. And Golconda state in 1632 grants what is literally in India today called the Golden Farman. Golden Farman or Golden Order, under which Golconda state allowed the British to trade within Golconda without paying any internal duties for, in exchange for 500 pagodas annual payment. Do you actually get the golden part of this story? That 500 pagodas is only what they need to pay, and the Golconda state internal duty is not there. Now I'll tell you why this is dumbness. I'll tell you why this is dumbness. I'll tell you why. They were paying tax of 500 on 10 tons. What the British will simply do, bring 30 tons. Now the mathematically weak rulers don't realize they can bring 50 tons, still pay only 500 pagoda. So just for 500, they fixed this according to certain tonnage, to certain volume. So if now they were bringing 10 tons, they were paying 500 pagodas. Consequently 30 tons, they would have to pay how much? 1500 pagodas. But how much are they paying? Pagoda is the currency of the Golconda state. How much are they paying? 500. This is why it's called the Golden Farman. Literally Golden Farman. That these myopic rulers did not realize what blunder they were doing. Golden Farman gave the British a gateway into the Deccan sector, and these people are happy to take 500. Very simply, I'll give you a very simple example. Very simple example. I am a shopkeeper and I sell Coca-Cola, right? The machine is in the side. I buy Coke from you in certain amount, meaning 1 glass, 2 glass, and I pay you some certain amount of money. Now what I do is I say to the shopkeeper, you say to me, what's the point if I pay you every time? Let's do one thing. More or less, I buy 1,000 rupees worth of Coke from you. You take it right now. But now, anytime and every time when I come, let me take the glass without paying you. Now, you said, I foolishly said, okay, give me 1,000. Mine is I get 1,000 rupees. But previously you only used to have 4 glasses, 5 glasses. Now you know that you can drink as many glasses as possible. So now you drink 10 glasses. How much do I get? 1,000. How much? You increase the tonnage. This is why the British are considered the British. Extremely smart. Extremely smart. So very simply, the Golden Farman is considered the gateway to India because this sector, now they have a duty-free presence. Is this clear? They're cunning. They're extremely cunning. How can you subjugate a population of 50 lakh when only 5 people were ruling? They're very, very smart. Now, the last point I want to make before we leave for today and we take this story forward tomorrow is a very important negotiation which they do. Can I discuss that? And then I consolidate everything. Golconda ruler is dumb, he's stupid, whatever you call. Dumbness will be done by everyone. Everyone. The British will just stand there and see India destroy itself. And that is what they were technically doing. Very simply, the last point for today is, in 1639, and this is the last point I'm making, by going to the Chandranagari, see this sector, there is a ruler of what we call ruler of Chandragiri. The British literally go and plead to the ruler of Chandragiri. Please give us some land. You, the mighty Chandragiri ruler who has no other parallel in the world, our queen will come and sit in your feet. You can at least give us some amount of land. You can give us some amount of land and let us build a fort. We don't feel very, very safe here. Please give us some land. And literally by constant negotiation after negotiation after negotiation, in 1539, they get Madras, a land given by the ruler of Chandragiri, on which they will make their first fort, which is till today called Fort St. George, in which the Tamil Nadu, what is called the Vidhan Sabha is there, or the legislative assembly is there. Fort St. George. All of this is just literal pleading, negotiation. Please, 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 please. These people will go and do please. They will boost the ego of the ruler, and that person will foolishly give the person. क्या ही कर लेगा? Small land I'm giving. Small fort they've made. What can this white man do? What can this Gora man do? Nothing. But this is the English are like a termite. Once they start to eat into your territory, they start to eat into your territory. So, very simply, this is where I'm going to stop the story of the English, because we have to go a step further, which is called Farrukhsiyar's Farman. And before that, the major concession in Bengal, what is called Sujauddin's, that is a separate issue altogether. Let us consolidate. Till this point, did everything make sense? Come on, tell me. Rather, Saat Sujas. Did it make sense? It made sense? So we have done 3 timelines today. Let's do one thing. Let's make them together and we'll be able to consolidate. We have done 3 timelines today, right? Right? Okay. This is the Portuguese. This is the Dutch. This is the English. Portuguese story starts in 1498. And for our purpose, their domination we will take till 1645 maximum. 1500, 1503, 1505, 1507, 1509. Technically, it is increasing by 2 after this point. 1509, 1510, 1529, 1559, not 16. Wait. Let's take this as 1645. Basic date, does not matter. What is the importance of each of these? 501. See, this is, I know 501 is there. Vasco da Gama. This is Cabral. This is Kochi. This is Kannur. This is Battle of Chaul. This is Battle of Diu. This is Goa. This is Cochin to Goa. And this is the last, which is Daman comes under control. Can we agree to this? First timeline. See, I have shrunk it. I have removed unnecessary dates. I'm just working with you with larger period. We can do that. I will simplify it. Now, Dutch, the East India Company. See, the story is that the Dutch story starts only in 1602. It starts in 1602, which is the formation of the VOC. Their first settlement is in 1605, which is Mausolipatnam. Then 1609, which is Calicut. Then it is 1616, which is Surat. And basically by 1645, they have Karikal. In between, their presence is increasing presence in East and Indonesia. Can we agree to this? This is what we agreed to. Bhavya, as I said, I am removing unnecessary dates. I want to make them together, so I have to make it a little bit simplified, because then it will become too much to manage. Ironically, the East India Company is formed in 1600 with charter. But their first presence in India will be in 1613, 1615, 1632, and then 1639. 1632, 1639, which is that Surat first factory. 1615 is Bengal presence. This is Golden Farman, and this is Madras concession. Very simply, this period is the English versus the Dutch versus the Portuguese, and increasing presence in Mughal court. And more than that, we also discussed that in 1611 and 1612, two battles won by British over the Portuguese. Now, does this whole story make sense? Now, does this whole story make sense? Come on. Yes? So tomorrow when we meet again, we will see how, after getting Madras, how the British will further strengthen its role via one concession, which is in 1650, which is in 1651, then 1717, which are two more very important moments in India, which I will do tomorrow. So, done. If you want to go to the webinar, you can, but you can revise through this. Did this make sense? If this class made sense to you, if you are able to understand, just give me a thumbs up or just say yes sir, everything is perfect. Then I will see you tomorrow again at 5 p.m. and very simply, you can rely on the PPT for this section. I'm constantly making these timelines so that you can understand it and you can contextualize everything. Modern India is much more. Go into your dashboard and there will be, it will say live webinar. Click it. The basic point of the matter is modern India is much more than this, but we still are talking about how the British is entrenching itself or technically putting its tentacles into India. Right? If you don't have a question, thank you so much for your patience. I hope everything is making sense. The method of teaching is something which is suiting you and you are comfortable with it. And other than that, go to the webinar. Harshmeet sir would be starting his webinar right now. I will see you tomorrow at 5 again. Right? If you don't have a